Oh, hello. This I don't know this. I think. Okay. Okay. Um. Hello. Hi, Mora. Hi. We are playing Dicentra. Um. we're playing Dicentra. It's a horror game, so please make sure to read the content warnings pin. And I'm going kind of completely blind into this. I kind of barely read the description. I know roughly what it's about in the sense of like story, but yeah, that's pretty much as far as I've gotten into it because I wanted to go as blind into this as I could go, which is the bare minimum. Yeah, going blind is always fun, especially when it's like a horror game, because then you can really get surprised when something happens. Hi. Let's go. My breath comes out in puffy clouds as I limp through the rain. It blurs my vision, forcing me to feel my way through the forest with wind crushing against me from all sides. I've never been much for prayer, but would it be too late to start now? I feel like digging my claws into anything that might make me feel less alone right now. Then again, what god would hear someone like me out? I fumble over tangles of roots and slip over wet moss. My bones instantly shudder from the cold shock that shoots up my arms as my nails grab onto a nearby rock. The cuts all over my body start to sting again, and a pathetic whine escapes my throat. My grandmother would have a riot if she could see me now. I can hear her snide remark already. See what happens when you don't listen to me? As if I wouldn't survive long enough to hear the real deal. I sniffle in frustration and try to shake the feeling away with the rain dripping down my face. She's always right, of course. For just a moment, I thought I had finally gotten what I wanted so badly, and all on my own in spite of how it was always placed out of my reach. Yeah, the art is so beautiful. That's what like attracted me to this game. The few art pieces I saw, I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. It was almost worse the consequences that came after. Lost in thought, I lose control of my limbs. I'm not used to controlling them all at once, and it's enough to throw me back into the slick earth. Oh. My eyes begin to burn. The ice of the rain and the pain that drags along my body suddenly overwhelm me. The storm above is harsh, and the thick canopy of trees above me does little to shield me from its rage. Instead, the trees passively turn their leaves away. If I had the guts, I'd throw my grandmother's most colorful curses at them. But I don't. I force myself to take a deep breath. I shakily lift myself from the ground, trying hard to ignore the bite of pain that comes from my arm. For the middle of summer, it pours hard. The rain comes down like shards of ice against my skin, like it falls with the intent to hurt. In the puddle in front of me, I watch it disturb the reflection with ripples. In the brief moments where the reflection almost settles, I see piercing yellow eyes. Dark fur. Oh my goodness, little baby! And wilted ears, slick and clinging to the small vulnerable form of a wolf pup. Are we a werewolf? Wait. Oh. The voice of my grandmother hisses in my mind. What have you done, Basil? I need to get back home. I tear away from the puddle and trek on. Please, something lead me back home. Something, anything. After making my wish, I wonder if it's a wise thing to ask this forest for a favor. Maybe my wariness is starting to play tricks on my mind. Because I swear, something answers. It's so faint that I question if it's even real. A howl cuts through the wind, or perhaps it's the wind that shrinks away from the sound that ambles through. Fighting my way through the storm has left my body exhausted. My mind might be neglecting its responsibility to remember what reason is. All my instincts scream to ignore it, but my heart, a stupidly curious thing, makes me take a step forward. My fuzzy ears pick up the heavy sound of my heart pounding. I try to convince myself it's because of fear. I need to focus on where the howling is coming from. As I get closer to the sound, it begins to resemble crying. The storm also seems to start to mysteriously practice flaws. Is it the forest showing mercy, or has it submitted to something more formidable? I've lived in the woods my whole life. I should know better than anyone to never get too comfortable. A red light perforates the dark atmosphere. I swallow harshly. There's a mansion in the middle of the woods. From a distance, it would look abandoned, if not for the hazy red light coming from the rooftop. I squint. Is that a greenhouse? A shadowy figure moves quickly behind its clear walls, startling me, like talking to the tall and neglected grass that grows in the mansion's yard. After a short while, I peek through the blades. The shadow is gone. Did I imagine it? I release a nervous sigh and observe the grounds for any sign of life or death. It was a bad idea to come here. Terrible one, even. I can't stay here. I retreat back into the shadows of the forest, keeping the mansion in my light outside. The moment I feel bold enough to turn my back against it, a powerful gale slams into me. I tumble back hard, skidding across the ground and into the tall grass with a cry. It takes me a moment to recover from my swirling vision. My wounds scream at me, and I wonder how much further I can even go in this state. I greet my tis and get back on my feet, keeping my weight off my arm as I make for the forest again. Again, I'm denied entrance by the mysterious force. Panic starts to seep through my bones. Hopelessness might actually be a more welcome feeling than the tightness that now constricts around my heart. I stare at the trees as though they'll suddenly start playing nice, but being as ancient as them, do not bend to anyone's will but their own. The wind gives one more shove. It insists I move forward. I bear my adolescent fangs at it to disguise the hurt. I know now that my choices were nothing but illusions. I face the mansion once again. It's clear that something, or someone, from the inside is inviting me in. There's no other choice. I creep along the worn brick walls of the mansion and try to find a way in. Let's check the window. I spy a broken window and see a gauzy white curtain thrashing against the glass from the intruding storm. Sadly, it's far too high for me to climb, and there's no way I can jump in this state. I jump at a nearby cloud of thunder. My eyes blink through the rain, and I squint when the searing white light of the lining above reflects on something that sits on the window sill. I take a step back and see a simple white vase that holds a gathering of withered roses. Perhaps I can take this as proof that the mansion can safely serve as an empty shelter for the night. I turn and look for somewhere else to enter. I find an entrance to a cellar. The wood of the doors look rotten, but it doesn't give when I place 2 paws on it and push my weight into it. My ears flick back in disappointment, though I'm also relieved I didn't go tumbling through the old wood into some unknown depths. Heavy iron handles sit unchanged. All I need to do is find a way to open them. I try to squeeze my snout through one of the handles, and as I bring my face closer to the moldy wood, a faint sound comes from below. I immediately freeze. I see rain weighs down my fur and intensifies the chill that drapes over me like a sick pillow, like a sick cloak. I swallow, then lean forward to press one of my droopy ears against the door. I listen closely, and serpentine kisses come from the other side of the wood. My breathing stills. My ear remains glued to the door. I try to find sense in the sounds I hear, then something slams right against the wood, where my ear is pressed against it, and I fling back in shock. The fur against my neck is completely ruffled, and my tail curls between my legs in fright. I stare at the cellar doors with owlish eyes, half expecting a beast to burst out and eat me. But nothing happens. Still, my racing heart does not calm as I track through the muddy grass in search of some other entrance. A faint knocking grabs my attention. I pad to the back of the mansion, and my saving grace comes in the form of a door left slightly ajar. Aha! I nudge my nose into the tight gap, and relief washes over me when it parts. An ear-piercing screech echoes through the mansion as the door's hinges begin to shift. From the looks of it, we haven't moved for a long time. The feeling of ice floods my veins. I stay frozen in the doorway. If the mansion is occupied, there's no way I didn't just announce my entrance. Fear takes over again. My back paw intuitively steps back so I can attempt to run as far away from this place as I can. The sound of thunder explodes behind me. I feel my body take on a life of its own as I throw myself into the mansion against my will. The door slams on my way in. I breathe shallowly. When I come to my senses, I'm in a kitchen. It's dark inside the house. The only source of light comes from the windows above the counters, erasing beyond its reaches of wood. I see a kitchen table and fall towards it, scratching my nails along the musty wood flooring in a rush to get beneath it. I stay under the table as my breathing starts returning to a normal pace. My eyes are wide and my ears are perked up, on the lookout for anything that could be a threat. The only sounds I pick up are the heavy drums of rain from outside and the occasional creak of the mansion walls freezing in the night air. When I'm confident that there's no sign of life inside this manor, I crawl back into the open and immediately shake off as much rain and mud as I can. I let myself celebrate the minor luxury of finally escaping the maws of the weather, but I don't let my nerves calm down just yet. As soon as my eyes adjust better to the dark, I take the time to study my surroundings more. I notice a hearth that lacks any recent maintenance. Dishes crowd the countertops, and a thick layer of dust forces me to smother a sneeze. This place hasn't been occupied in a long time. Surely I can allow myself to breathe just a little bit easier in this space, at least until the storm wanes. I bring in a deep inhale, being careful not to get any dust on my sensitive nose, and tread cautiously. As I sneak further in, I hold my breath at every corner, carefully looking in all directions for danger. The rest of the mansion is as devoid of life as the kitchen. Most of the rooms here have closed doors. The ones I could see in were graciously empty except for the derelict furnishings we seen. Barely anything is in decent shape. I couldn't guess how long it's been since a human lived in this manner, but based on the scratches on the scratched hardwood floors, and the broken but intricate-looking side table nestled in a dark corner, I have the impression that this place was neglected even while it was occupied. My nails tap on the floor as I limp into the hallway, my mind finally settling from all the adrenaline. The ache in my front leg starts to swell, and the heart of my body intensifies the pain. I try to admire the paintings line the walls from end to end, but it's hard to see them in the dark. Through glimpses of light, I could make out some faded landscapes, a few mountains, some castles, and a couple of portraits. Oh, that's never a good sign. An old abandoned manor, this little portraits all over the place. Okay. One portrait in particular catches my eye. I stop in front of it. I stare at the portrait, foolishly thinking that it's staring right back The rising heat in my body must be making me see things. Or you're seeing exactly what you're seeing. As I observed the side profile of a pale woman, I noted that she's clearly the most realistic painting I've seen so far. We don't say When she turns her head to look down at my tiny form, every hair on my body goes stiff. My lovely features captured in oil begin to melt off as she steps out from the painting. Bitch, what the fuck? Smooth ivory skin shrivels into a dusty pallor. The elaborate gown clinging to her sharp shoulders begins to rot as her torso cracks open like a blooming rose, revealing decaying bone and organs that run down her skirt like horrific decor. I immediately start running away as fast as I physically can. As I scramble to get away on my hurt leg, I hear something that might be worse than a ghost. The woody and spicy scent of incense fills the humid air, creating a hazy purple fog. The sound of change moving in a controlled rhythm rattles me as the marrow in my bones. Footsteps follow shortly after, growing louder alongside the clinking chains. It's coming from the staircase. My breath quickens, I slide to a halt and backtrack away from the sounds. I look behind me and see the glowing apparition of a woman's scrunched form stumbling towards me, dragging a trail of gore with a wet squelch. Hide. I need to hide. But where? My eyes dart across every inch of the hallway, desperately searching for a small sanctuary. The footsteps are right behind me. The ghost is right in front of me. This hallway now feels like a tomb. All of the doors are firmly shut. I press against the wall, my heart skipping a bit when I notice a faint tapping sound coming from behind me. I turn around and witness the outline of a door revealing itself. I waste no time shoving my muscle between the crack to wrench it open. As soon as I pried the door open, I hurled myself through and back into the darkness. I walked backwards away from the door, keeping my eyes on it. I'm so focused on the door that I bump into something cold and almost trip over it. I look up and see a dark iron staircase curling up to a high ceiling. A hatch near the top is open, letting the rain from outside drip down onto the cold metal. I hear footsteps once again, this time much louder. I don't dare to breathe or move. Oh my god! There you are. No, I think... There you are. The voice startles me into moving. No way was I about to stick around and find out what fate awaits me. Every fiber of my being is ringing with danger as I climb the stairs, with only adrenaline instructing my limbs. I drag myself up the iron steps until I'm bursting onto the roof and back into the storm. A fog of pride muddles my mind. I see the greenhouse I had spotted earlier and sprint towards it as fast as I can. I search for a small space to crawl into, tripping over a mess of vines along the way. Thunder and lightning roar above me. A bright flash of white blinds me. I can feel my claws scratch against the wet tiles. The door slams shut in the distance, causing a rippling effect in the walls and reaching the rooftop. When the rippling stops, everything goes quiet. The energy of the manor shifts completely. A jolt of lightning from the storm makes my throat stand. It charges the air and saturates it with the smell of ozone. I shake the rain from my face. The whole world has fallen silent, except for the sound of a chilling drip. Basil. I freeze. My eyes carefully follow the coil of dark roots in the gray floor of the greenhouse. I follow it straight all the way to the blood dripping down onto the dirty tiles and the pale feet beside it. My eyes climb to a mysterious figure. I don't think I'll ever forget the sight before me for as short as I live. Lightning flashes brightly through the tall windows. Blooming rose bushes creep along them. White roses speckled across its dark leaves like stars in the night sky. The bright flowers begin to bleed red before my very eyes. At the rose bush's crimson silk center, a small girl stands with her back towards me. Blood drips from tiny bite marks all over her hand. The red flower bulb is crushed between her delicate fingers. You're just a little guy. We're just a little guy looking for shelter from the rain. Instead of a strong floral scent, the smell of burning paper and wilting lilacs floods my senses. A whine unwillingly crawls up my throat and cuts through the silence. Time resumes once again. The girl turns, her gaze pierces right through me. The gold drops from her hand. She doesn't say a word, her attention is mine, whether I want it or not. Black dots begin to appear in the corners of my vision. The last thing I see is her walking towards me, before everything fades to black. Starting off strong. I like this so far. I like this. I like the setting. I like the way it's setting up everything so far. I enjoy that. My fever is brutal throughout the night. I slip in and out of consciousness, to flames beneath my skin and an ache I'd rather sleep off than face. I try to make my body go back to sleep, but rough hands force my jaw open and I feel something shoved down my throat. The intrusion makes me violently resist, but I'm far too weak to fend the intruder away. The dark takes me into its arms once again. I wake to the tang of rusty metal and humid air. The unfamiliar sensation makes my eyes snap open. Beyond the small cage that holds me, it's dark and damp. I clench my jaws, I examine my surroundings. Soon my eyes fixate on the ghost staring at me from outside the metal prison. I yelp and throw my body backwards, hitting the back of the cage. I expect the bite of hard metal on my back, but something smooth bends around my shape instead. It hits an immune response. I don't see it like that very much. My paws scrape the cold floor of this cage as I spin. The bars behind me morph into slurring vipers in defensive stances, each one bearing their fangs in anger. Careful. The venom will make the blood in your body solidify in seconds. That wouldn't be a very pleasant way to die. I look at the ghost in horror. I'm breathing so quickly that I'm convinced I'll die from the lack of oxygen. Or so I think. The vipers settle back into metal bars, and I make myself small. I don't want to risk testing their patience again. The ghost is not a ghost, but a girl. Her hair looks like ink that's been violently knocked over and spilled onto the floor. It melts into the dark surroundings, contrasting her gray, sickly-looking skin. Her expression is blank. I see her hands tightly clutching her white gown. Did he bite? Do you? I reveal my teeth for a snarl and watch as she shows hers with a small smile. The fur along my spine stands up. She starts to move and I flinch. The girl crawls towards the cage and I curl my nails. She reaches for me, a pale hand passing through the bars without resistance. It freezes right in front of my snout. Did you check in to see if I would really bite? Has she no fear, offering her hand so fearlessly in the presence of a beast? I may only be a pup, but the sheer force of my jaws can pierce right through her palm. I pull my face away from her hand and see her stare up from my peripheral vision. She pulls her hand back and holds it against her collar. My eyes lock with hers as she stares at me with her lips pressed together. I think she expected me to bite her. It'll be hard for me to protect you if you're too scaredy cat to do as I say. My eyes snap back to the girl. I watch as she stands up and wipes her hands on her breast, not showing a single care for how dirty it's become. If you want to survive, you'll have to listen to my instructions. Okay, doggy? She tilts her head like she expects me to respond. Don't try to be too brave. You can only survive at this place if you're smart. Leaders have too much fight in them and make them foolish. My heart pounds in my chest from her words alone. She gives me another haunting smile. When you're almost better, I'll take you for a walk before he gets back. Is this what she sounds like when she's excited? Then suddenly, she suddenly moves close to the cage again. I jump and back away just enough to risk getting into trouble with the vipers again. The scent of burning parchment and wilting lilacs returns. The girl's hair falls off her shoulders. I expected ink to trickle down and dye her dress black. My name is Dove. Horrible to meet you, Dove. Oh, chapters. Chapter 1, Roses. I spent the night nursing the dregs of my fever. When I first woken up, I didn't take notice of how much of it already been soothed. But now vague memories of violating hands surface in my thoughts. Did the girl Dove give me some kind of medicine during the height of my fever? My body still feels uncomfortably warm. I rest my head on one arm and glance at the one that had been hurt earlier. A clean bandage firmly wrapped around it. Not enough to cut off the blood flow, but enough to restrict the movement. Was this also Joe's handiwork? I sighed softly through my nose, and I closed my eyes. Time passes ambiguously in the cage. With nothing to reference, I don't know if it's been mere hours or days. A bowl of water sits in the corner of my cage. I know from the dryness of my throat that I need to hydrate, but I have yet to muster up the courage to approach the bar that slither and rattle every so often. When I'm desperate enough to finally quench my thirst, the bars relievingly keep their metal forms. Feeling better now, I curl into a ball and my tail cradles my face. I want to go home. The exhaustion catches up to me once again. I fall asleep on crusty metal and wake on dusty floor. The sound of wind chimes alerts me into consciousness. My eyes snap open and my retinas are immediately burned by the color that floods into them. On the floor in front of me is a kaleidoscope of lights created by the morning sun, a stark contrast to the dark and dreary setting I was previously confined to. Maybe I dreamed it all in a feverish haze? I checked on the gauze around my arm, still there. A weight around my neck brings me back into focus. The collar is secured around my throat. Attached to it is a long and heavy chain that leads to the leg of a large wardrobe in the corner of the room. In the bedroom, I take in my latest cage. There are no longer venomous bars to keep me, but the state of confinement has not changed. My eyes move from the rainbows on the floor to the line of the chain restraining me, then to the rest of the room. I look at the windows and find swirling murals and expressive paintings of various creatures and monsters. The sun behind them illuminates the floor with speckles of color like a stained glass window. Past the frame of the window, the drawings continue in nonsensical scrawl. Less art decorates the walls, but shelves with cracked plant pots and hanging tangles of ivy take their place. Dirty cups and bowls sit forgotten in a dark corner. I briefly noted 2 shallow dishes near where I lay. They looked like they would be used by a pet. Judging from the surprising lack of grime from under them, it hasn't been that long since they were last used. Dusty books and crumpled parchment litter the floorboards. Taking up half of the room is a canopy bed. Dark curtains are pulled tightly together, preventing me from seeing inside. The sound of scratching captures my attention. I drag my gaze past piles of books there, sitting on a raggedy blanket, hunched over and scribbling over the print in a book. The stove. She gnaws on her lip and pinches her brow. I can hear her whispering something to herself. No, no, no. That won't work. I slowly lift myself to the floor, cringing at the sound of clanking chains following my movement. Don't make no move acknowledging my presence, so I continue approaching her. When I'm closer to her back, I'm able to get a better look at what she's furiously writing. Scribbles of occult symbols make the words of the pages completely illegible. I swallow a lump in my throat. The collar around my neck feels very heavy right now. Joe suddenly tears a page out from the book. The jarring sound makes me jump when I slam into a tower of books, sending it toppling to the floor. Dread weighs heavily on me. I look back at Joe. She's now staring at me with wide eyes. You're awake! I release a small yelp and stare at her dumbfounded. She's brighter. Or maybe it's the luminous light filtering through the bedroom window. Something about it paints her in a rose-tinted lens that makes my weariness waver. That feeling instantly vanishes when she gets up and rushes towards me. I run away as fast as my legs allow me, but my air supply is abruptly cut off when I'm certain of my feet. A sharp howl is pulled from my throat. I look behind me and see that the chain of my collar is full taut. I had reached its limit. I then see Joe standing in the spot I had bolted from. Her gaze creeps along the chain, making its way to my crumpled form. Icy blue eyes stare into mine and I shudder. It feels like she could unravel me through sight alone. She looks at me like she knows. Then she perks up, snapping the tension away. All right, you're probably starving. The others were also very skittish when they had empty bellies. Her voice trails off as though she's become lost in thought. She starts weaving through the mess of book piles to reach the bedroom door. Wait here. I don't have much of a choice. Dove returns with a bread roll and a bowl. She sets the bowl down a couple feet in front of me and retreats back to chew on her own food. I tentatively approach her. The bread smells like heaven. I lick my lips on instinct. It must have been ages since I last ate, because I watch her tear chunks from it and mark every little crumb falling into her white dress with yearning. I look down at the bowl she left for me. The sight of red fluffy chunks meets me. Raw meat. She gave me a bowl of raw meat. Can't eat this. Or, well, maybe I could? But the idea of it has nausea coursing through me. I stare at the fresh blood pooling at the bottom of the bowl. Then I glance over at the bread. I'm back down with the bowl, feeling conflicted. My stomach growls. I can feel saliva start to drip down the side of my mouth. I can't do it. Are you gonna let it go to waste? Jesus Christ, little girl. Dove's voice comes from right above me and fear flutters in my stomach. Okay then. My eyes snap up. Dove reaches for me and I flinch, scattering away. She kneels in front of the bowl and dips her hands into it, crushing a fistful of squishy red meat between her fingers. She brings the raw meat to her mouth. Bile rises in my throat as I watch her chew through the raw flesh and swallow it with a sickly gulp. She covers her mouth with the back of her hand and gasps, then looks at me. She smiles at me, her teeth stained and glistening red. What a horrible taste! A thin stream of blood falls from the corner of her mouth. I suppose you'd like something a little more appetizing? She gags again, then runs out of the room. Girl, are you okay? I hear the sound of progression from another room. No, she's not. Okay. Dove returns with a new bowl of what looks like stew. I inspect it thoroughly, checking for insects or anything inedible. When I surmise that there's nothing of the sort, I dig in greedily. My eyes begin to sting after the first few bites. The stew is so bland. It makes me yearn for my grandmother's cooking so badly. From the corner of my eye, I can see Dove watching me like a hawk. Like a single blink is enough to make me vanish. Only I could. As I finish eating the stew, a soft setting captures my attention. I look back to see my tail wagging against the floor. I feel myself shrink with embarrassment. I merely seize its movements, but not before Dove takes notice. Looks like your enemy has returned. Her eyes move to my arm. Does it still hurt? I stare at Dove, then hesitant a bit. I stare at Dove, then hesitantly put my weight on my wrapped up arm. The sharp pain is mostly gone, but a dual ache still remains. If the opportunity for me to run away came, I could probably do it, but not without difficulty. I make a frustrated whine. Dove tilts her head at me, considering my reply. She approaches me again, slowly this time. I hold my breath as she comes closer, her hands hovering near the collar around my neck. I'm suddenly hyper-aware of how quiet it is. There's no drum, rain, or cracks of thunder to be heard from outside. Hope there should grow inside my racing heart. Will you hurt me if I take it off? I shake my head slightly. Dove gives me a curious look. Her hands hover for a short moment, then she nods. The weight of the collar lifts up my shoulders. Then I bolt. My whip escape shoves Dove aside. I barely see her get thrown to the floor as I make for the open bedroom door. Dove makes a panic noise behind me. It fades out in my rush to leave her behind. Then I'm back into the hallway where the forest began. I need to go back to the kitchen. I sprint to the stairs. Then suddenly I'm skidding to a stop when a wall meets me at the end of the hall instead of a staircase. I stare in confusion. Did I go the wrong way? I look forward around the hall. I don't remember seeing this many doors. A sinking feeling unravels in my gut. I run down a new hallway. Then turn into another. Then another. My exploration of the manor was cut short when I first arrived, so maybe I can't remember everything well enough. But I swear, they are not the same halls I walked through before. After I turn into hallway number 15 in this new labyrinth, the sound of something being dragged cuts off my thoughts. I look behind me, fear pulsing in my veins. The ghostly figure slowly walks down the cross-section of another hall. That's just my bestie. That's just my bestie, don't worry about it. Long hair protrudes from its head, running down to the floor stiffly like straw, and hiding most of its long, thin limbs. I watch it disappear around the corner, completely frozen in my spot. Another ghost. I've never seen one this corrupted before. I now feel extremely vulnerable, like a beacon standing in the long and open corridor. A tapping noise was next. My heart pounds violently in my chest as I search for the sound. I immediately see another ghost heading straight for me. I yelp and crush myself against the walls, as if it don't make me invisible. Oh, this sign slaps! This ghost staggers towards me with bony knees knocking together. A sin-veiled hooded silver body, and something that resembles a bird beak peeks out of its chest. The closer it gets, the better I'm able to make out the detail of its leathery skin and the beady, bloodshot eyes that dapple across its face above the rotting beak. Needle-seen arms bend sharply at the elbow and reach back behind the ghost's head. It balances on its elbow and pulls itself forward on them. I make myself paper thin and shiver when parts of its elbow brushes against one of my paws. I start breathing again when it passes quietly, then back away into an intersection of hallways. Another ghost almost tramples me. Two ghosts follow one another down the path of the bird-like ghost. Mushrooms? Weird hands. Okay. One is a cluster of what looks like fungi and the twisting fabric that melts into bumpy flesh. A straightly network of mycelium trails behind it. The other creates a sound of glass punching together with every steady step it takes. Its arms stick out like pieces of wood that lightly swing as it walks, and where its face is what should be is a void framed by jagged, broken pieces of porcelain skin. I can still make out the raggedy maid uniform that clings to its blood form. I follow the ghost in trance, like a line of school children. Like a line of school children, they walk along a well-known path. Normally, when a ghost is corrupted from being trapped in the land of the living, every semblance of their humanity is lost. So where do these ghosts stalk to with so much purpose? They navigate the hallways without hesitation, twisting and turning through a route already well-worn. Then, so painfully easy, I have been led back to the kitchen. I see Dove standing on the kitchen table, delicately twisting an incandescent bulb into the hanging lighter fixture. Are the neighbor kids fucking yelling outside? Oh, what the fuck? I thought this was the game. Dry black tears stain her cheeks, but her expression betrays no sign of rejection. Also, if the background noise is audible, let me know and I'll close the window. Another bulb is held loosely in her other hand. This one has been burned out so badly that no light can penetrate its ashy blackened surface. It took 40 years to develop this type of filament. The ghosts around her. I watch them reach for her and I open my jaws to bark out a warning, but I choke on my rising panic. Dove doesn't notice them and continues to screw in the bulb. I read that these bulbs can stay lit for up to 1,200 hours. Claws brush against her shirt. And yet, after less than a week, their legacy of lightning, the dark has been snuffed out forever. With one last turn of her wrist, light envelops the room. Something so wonderful. Dove stares into the bulb's light, and her fingers caress the glass. Only takes in a place like this. Oh, Lord, the creator went hard as fuck with the pieces. The ghosts have vanished. Doves give no hint of awareness for the presence that had just left them. My blood sounds in my ears. Did she not see them? I look at the door that I had used to enter the mansion. I hear Dove toast up her hands and toss the old gold into a box, which shatters amongst other pieces of glass. She sighs wearily. How long will this cycle continue for? I barely hear her words. Instead, I stare at the wall where the back door should be, and there's no door. I immediately freak out. I run to the wall, ignoring the ache of my arm, and scratch at old wallpaper, hoping the door was only hidden behind it. My claws tear through the wood, but as I continue scratching, the outline of the door does not reveal itself. I back away, staring at the shredded decoration and breathing rapidly. It's not there anymore. I turn my head up and see Dove sitting on the kitchen table, swinging her legs. She stares at the wall I turn up and gives me a blank expression. I explode. My body ignites with fire rage as I growl and snarl at her. Bark, 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 bark. She frowns and her eyes turn downcast with guilt. I don't know how to get it back. I look past Dove and see the window. I perk up. The window! We can break it! I pause and take note of how far the window is from the floor. Well, maybe not me. Dove sits on the table looking bored. I take a deep breath. Also, I'm gonna be very careful of Prinatu's actions that would hurt her, just because we said that we want to hurt her. I don't want to keep my word like that. Dove jumps and her eyes swivel down at me. What? I point my nose at the window and it takes up a second to understand my gesture. She blinks and turns her head to the window. Her lips round in confusion. The window? She looks down at me with furrowed brows. What about it? My tail wags behind me. I ignore it and look around for something that will help her understand what I want. I spot a stool underneath the table and my ears stand up straight. Dove leans over and watches me drag the stool out with my teeth. I throw my body weight back and pull it out until it falls over. Then I look at Dove and point my thumb at the window again. She hops up the table and picks up the stool. She holds it up, still wearing a befuddled expression. You want me to... She raises a brow at me. Put it by the window? I huff. Throw it out the window? I nod and my tail wags quickly. Dove looks at the window hesitantly. She stares at her reflection in the glass. I've never tried to break from the windows before. Dove stumbles slightly, then when I grab the bottom of her dress and lead her to it. When I feel her slightly resist, I look up and Dove's face appears paler than I saw was possible. I see her swallow before she starts moving on her own. She climbs onto the counter with the stool in her hands. It slips slightly in her grip and she wipes her hand on her dress. She rises the stool and my heart starts to quicken. The stool comes down, then stops. I whine in confusion. Dove stares into the window with wide eyes. I follow her line of sight and see it. A pale hand grips Dove's arm. I look past it and let out a sharp cry. Bitch, what the fuck is that? People will be having inner demons. What about outer demons? Ever thought about that, huh? Ever considered that? Dove's reflection stares back with blackened eyes and a white distorted smile that leaks that bile. I can see Dove's hand tremble when the reflection speaks. Bad girl. You should know better by now. The familiar feeling of cold spreads through my veins. I hear Dove's breath pitch. Then I hear something else. Tiny, wooden footsteps fill the silence. I stay completely still and slowly sign my pupils to see small flutters of movement from the shadow in my peripheral. I hold my breath. The footsteps start to grow louder. I hear Dove pick up and my eyes slide back to her in panic. The reflecting pressure of Dove's wrist, black webs spread from where they touch. Its beady eyes twinkle as its brain stretches wider. Then it pulls Dove in closer until their foreheads almost touch. Behave, Dove. The Vexen barks out a howling laugh, then shoves Dove away from the window. Dove shrieks and flails her arms. I yell and throw myself under her to soften her fall. She crosses me with her weight, only falling to a metal heap on the floor. My vision swirls and my whole body rages in agony. The sound of the reflection's laughter fades away and wooden feet start to retreat up to my relief. When we recover again, Dove stands on shaky legs and I can see her trying to control the haunted expression she wears. She holds her wrist with a tight grip, Black wings not fade from where the reflection had touched her. I let out a soft woo. She had hurt because of me. She stumbles to the table and plants herself back on top of it. I whimper and go back to scratch the door more in desperation. I'm sorry. Enough. I'm tired of seeing you wallowing in despair. I reply with an indignant huff. I see Dove puff her cheeks in annoyance. I turn my head away and rest it on my paws. There's no way out. It's better for you to just accept it. A growl rumbles in my throat. Even the front door is gone, so instead of wasting time, you may as well follow me and keep yourself occupied. I wish I could cry. My ears lay flat against my skull. I found myself right in the mouth of a carnivorous flower with the sweetness of a shelter tree looming in. I should have noticed the sharp teeth at the entrance. I take a peek at Dove. She's like a caged bird in this house. Doesn't she hate it? How can anyone possibly live like this? I don't think she has much of a choice, Bessie. The patient reaches its end and she slides off the kitchen table. I cry when she hauls me off the ground and I bare my hands at her when her face appears right before mine. My glare doesn't faze her. Follow, Wolf. There's much to do. We return to the labyrinth of hallways. Dove seems to know her way around them well. Now that I'm not frantically running through them, I notice a huge difference in the manor's atmosphere. Less dirt coats the floor, ceiling lights illuminate the hallways, and it almost feels peaceful. Dove stops by a closet in the hallway. She grabs into the handles of the doors, and it opens up to reveal shelves and cupboards with miscellaneous tools and supplies. She climbs a stool to reach the highest shelf and retrieves a box with small buckets and brushes. I tense up at the side of the stool, beginning to sway back and forth. She climbs back down beside the issue before leading me into a room I recognize very quickly. She makes her way to the broken side table I'd spotted when I was first exploring the rooms of the mansion, and I take the time to look around. The dining table with only 3 chairs takes up most of the room. Candles spike up from the top like stalagmites. There's so many that I think they wouldn't. Okay, can I not, start choking on my words when I speak? Candles spike up from the top like stalagmites. There's so many that I think they would render a fire hazard if they were all to be lit. Hardened wax drips over the edge. I can see the end of a fountain pen as well as scraps of paper. I'm unable to see a well of ink from my position, but I assume that is where it runs down the dusty table, causing dark splotches. A gleam catches my attention. On the other side of the room, I'm unsettled by the mirrors that cover the wall from floor to ceiling. I swallow a lump that forms in my throat and I can not let my eyes linger on them. I lay on the floor and watch her slide her strongly scented glue on the broken leg of the table. She roughly connects the broken leg to the rest of the table and pans it with her hand so it dries faster. She tests its sturdiness with a light finger, then scrunches her nails when it wobbles. She twists around and digs in her box, then pulls out a roll of twine with a bright expression on her face. My brows furrow together. Dove twirls the string around the leg and binds it tightly. When she's done, she sets the table straight again. It still rocks unsteadily, but it stays standing. That seems to be good enough for Dove because she picks up her box again and gives it a nod. I leap from my spot on the floor and spin to a loud noise. In the corner of the room, the long-haired ghost from earlier stands bent over a broken vase. I fling from themselves out a startled noise and starts to spread towards it. I bark in alarm. It's dangerous. She ignores me. Sweetie? I grab the bag up and down with my teeth to stop her. Dosing Wiener goes from angry to taken aback. She stops and looks down at me. I shock myself with my own actions and quickly drop her skirt. Dove considers me for a moment, then switches her attention back to the ghost and marches over to him. You klutz! My jaw drops. Do I love her? I don't need another person to creep out after. The ghost lets its long fingers together and bows its head. When Dove gets closer to it, she stumbles and cries out. The ghost snaps its head back up at her. Dove checks the bottom of her foot and sees a shard embedded in her flesh where it blooms from a small wound. Ooh, people. The ghost makes a groaning sound and steps towards Dove. She hisses when it walks through the bands of glass and drags it with them. It's concerned for her? I observe their interaction, feeling befuddled. Everything I know about corrupted ghosts is being challenged. I pause to think about how the ghost rushed to her side earlier. The ghost tugs on Dove's sleeve like it's asking for forgiveness. She continues to badger it while taking the shard out of her foot. I study them curiously. Wasn't because they wanted to cause her harm? I trail behind Dove when she leaves to treat the small cut and when she returns to clean up the mess. We leave the ghost and Dove continues down whatever to-do she has in her mind. While she paints over the scratches on the kitchen door, trying to match the old wallpaper, she speaks to me. Have you met all of them already? She doesn't speak again until we run into another ghost. She waits in the hallway for Dove. She perks up when she sees what it's holding. Oh, thank you, Babel. She takes a small bundle of red roses from it, freshly turned from its bush. I follow her to a window and see a tall, thin glass vase with smoother roses in it sitting on the sill. Dove takes out the dead flowers and replaces them. Then she pauses and looks down at something below. Her face reveals nothing as she turns her gaze away and makes her way down the hall again. Before following her, I stand on my haunches and try to peer out the window. A chill comes down on me when I look down and see a small patch of graves, each marked by a small wooden cross. I break away from the nerving sight and turn towards the hall where Dove had gone down. She stands at the end of the hall waiting for me. The bird-like ghost's name is Growl, and the doll-like ghost's name is the Dead. Dove introduces them officially when we run into them, as we go around the manor doing mundane tasks. It's a sight I can't get used to. I can't understand how a young girl can act so normal around such monstrous beings. Seeing their translucent leathery skin or the fluids that drip from the decaying flesh is enough to send me reeling, but she does not flinch or fear. Earlier when they had surrounded her in the kitchen, she could tell they were there, weaving their arms together to wrap her in a ghostly embrace. She didn't care in the slightest. I start to think she's more disturbing than the ghosts. To become disrupted, they would have had to stay trapped in this place for a long time. Why are they still here? Their horrific forms border and pitiful. To be this far gone, it has to be some type of hell. Dove walks amongst them like they're her family, though. No, that's not quite it. I rearrange my thoughts. Maybe the image of the grave flashes in my mind. It's because she is theirs. I watch her guide Grell's gangling limbs out of the hallway so they can pass through, like they're nothing but an annoying sibling. A monster, just like them. Maybe this cat she lives in is of her own making. Dove does her errands like a routine, putting books away in the library and cleaning up candles burned to the end of their wicks. By the time she finishes winding up a large grandfather clock in the hallway, the manor feels like a completely different place. The air is still stifled by dust particles, the rooms are brighter, and it feels like a home now. As we walk back to Dove's room, the sun begins to descend into the blazing orange horizon, and the evening cicadas make their shrill voices heard. Despite the manor feeling more livable, there is a feeling it gives me that I cannot shake. A void that looms like a presence. It's like letters left unfinished or tea half empty and turning cold. There's this sense of stagnation that places this manor outside of the time's region and leaves a noise that buzzes persistently in the air. Dove stops abruptly and I almost trip over my own paws trying not to run into her. I take a peek from behind her and immediately let out a yell. Oh, there it is. Also, before I continue, I think I'll be able to stream for at least 1 more hour, maybe 2, depending on the time. If we reach chapter 2, and I check the time and I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit too close to my limit. I'll probably end it there and we will resume in maybe not next week, but the week after at the latest. to continue playing. Just giving a heads up, just in case. Again, I came into this so blind I didn't know how long this game could be. So we'll see how it goes. The very first ghost I have met stands at the end of the hallway. Dove doesn't move. I see the ghost stagger down the hall towards us, and I instinctively back away. Then Joe speaks. It's okay. Her tone is not very convincing. The ghost gets closer, and I can see the details of her leaking. I can see the details of her leaking entrails. I make a whimpering sound and hide behind Dove, keeping myself close to the wall. She's harmless. She doesn't do anything. I sharply glance at Dove when her voice falters. But watch. The ghost is right beside us. Its hollow eyes look down at Dove, and she holds its unseeing gaze with cold eyes. I don't wince, but the acrid smell of rot overwhelms my heightened sense of smell. The tensions between Dove and the ghost creates a pressure that sends the air, making my lungs ache for oxygen. Pain tastes my chest just when I can no longer hold my breath in. The ghost continues down the hall passively. I exhale loudly. I startle when Dove plunges her fist beside me. Her eyes follow the ghost for a couple seconds longer, then she cuts off her stare and moves on. I quickly chase after her, not wanting to be alone with this particular ghost ever again. If my luck allows it. I look back for a split second and the ghost has disappeared. Those shoulders are squared as we return to her room, since the sun has set in the opposite direction of her window. The scattering of colors from this morning is long gone. Her relationship with the hallway ghost is much different from the others. The way she spoke about her almost seemed resentful. I pad to a corner, stalling for a moment when I see the color from early on the floor. I narrow my eyes at it and pick it up with my teeth. Then I stare at the far wall. I give the color one last glare, and curl up on the floor. Silk settles cross-legged in the middle of the book, towers and reaches for surrounding text. I let out a big yawn, feeling heavy after the events of the day. I don't know if there's enough time in the world to process everything that's happened to me since I left home. I close my eyes and feel the tendrils of sleep curl around me. Do you think people can come back from the dead? She asked so quietly I almost don't hear her. I don't think she expects me an answer, and I cannot give her one. Those voices. Oh, we're doing Dove's POV now. Okay. I wince at the bites. The roses are extra hungry today. After not feeding them for a while, their petals have bleached to a stark white. I watch as my blood saturates the colorless flowers, then narrow my eyes when I spot a parasitic fungi at the base of the bush. Part of the bush is already starting to wither because of it. I reach down and tear it up harshly. Dirt sprays my gown, and I crush the fungi in my fist. I know more will sprout in its place, but seeing such a blight this close to the rose bush makes a bolt of anger rise in me. Just seeing it makes me want to destroy it. I walk to a different section of the greenhouse and throw it right next to the corpse of fungi's latest victim. My heart clenches at the sight. Its eyes are still open. I press my fingers down on the lids of the dead wolf, but it's too late. The terror on its face is already cemented in time. My fingers curl and my nails stab into my palm, making the bites sting. I return to the rose bush and continue cleaning them. Thunder and lightning crash above me. Will it lure in another pitiful soul tonight? I hear a door slam and I flinch, crushing the bulb in my hand. My ears listen intently, searching for lingering traces of its presence. When I find none, I take a deep breath and finally let myself relax. I turn the bulb from its stem and my hands fall to my sides. The sounds of the rain is clearer now as I close my eyes to let it wash out everything else. I relish in its violence against the roof of the greenhouse and tremble under the crisp cracks of thunder. To pass the time, now that it's mine again, I whisper something my mother taught me under my breath. Then I hear a whimper come from behind me. Chapter 2, The Song. Yeah, we'll overwrite this save. Test returns. I look up from my view of worn books, finds, and see Dove. She sits on a creaky wooden chair with her knees drawn up beneath her chin. She brushes pale fingers across the row of papers of a large tome sitting open on the desk in front of her. The desk looks like it's made of dark wood, with deep grooves and jagged swirls that have been carved by something sharp. It sits tucked away in the middle of a small library in the mansion. Large bookshelves loom around us like trees in the dark forest. The narrow arched window above the desk and the dripping candles are the only things that light up this dark and decrepit space. I didn't know the mansion had such an intimidating space like this until we had wandered in earlier. Today's itinerary did not include any of those particular chores. Instead, she spent the time wandering around the manor with a notebook and a stick of charcoal. I followed her as she roams aimlessly through the halls, weaving in and out of different rooms. As she continues wandering, body and mind seemingly detached, I carefully inspect every inch of the manor, desperate for a sign that proves this house can be cracked open, allowing me to finally return home. At some point, she stops wandering to sit and curl at the foot of a decorative stone bust. When I look past her darkly smart hands, I catch glimpses of pages portraying the same bust over and over again. I don't think it's possible for her to draw that quickly in such a short amount of time. I wonder if she has her subject memorized by now, considering how familiar she is with it. Me, with a certain character that has white hair and 2 black strands of hair. That I can draw in 10 seconds flat. Dove seems to be drawn to art. Her sketchbook joins hers throughout all her tiny efforts to fill time in this house that she cannot leave. I begin to think that the professional paintings lining the hallway walls have some influence on this creative side of her. Perhaps she's inspired by someone close to her, or maybe she is just intensely curious. I do wonder, what happened to her family for her to end up in such a bizarre state? My thoughts trace back to my arrival at the mansion. There is someone who has yet to reappear, and I strongly hope that I'm gone long before he makes his appearance again. Okay, yeah, that's funny this gets mentioned now, because I was gonna mention earlier when he was like, oh yeah, I met the ghost and stuff. I was like, who? What about little hat man? What about the hat man? Dove surprises me when she walks into the new room during our walk. I cautiously follow her in, and the room reveals itself to be a library full of grit and darkness. I can see dust particles floating silently in the small beam of light that filters into the room. It tickles my nose and makes me sneeze, throwing me forward into a roll until I land on my back with a view of spiderweb-infested ceiling. Dove pays no attention to my fumble and carries on the back of the room until she reaches a stack of books. I shake my head to recover, ears flopping against my skull, and follow her the rest of the way in. As I delve further into the room, I quietly observe the floor to ceiling rows of bookshelves. All of them seem to vary in width and are arranged in a pattern that seems maze-like. Books stand in tall piles and scattered around the floor like they've been thrown around carelessly. My ear gives a small twitch at the sound of one hitting the floor, and I turn my gaze to Dove. She silently slips into a chair with a book in hand. I see her focusing intensely on reading after settling into the desk, and I slump onto the floor. Today's humidity has followed me like a blanket I can't push off. It's so sick it feels like I keep walking into a wall of heat. Oh my god, just like me, for real. I cannot be in this room, I am dying. Dove doesn't seem as bothered by it, but she's not the one covered in fur. I start panting loud enough to draw Dove's attention away from her book. She glances over and wrinkles her brows at me. What's wrong with you? I tilt my head in confusion. Her eyes freak over me inquisitively, then they brighten. She hops out of her chair. I start to stare so I can follow her, but she's already speeding out of the room. Stay here. My ears flatten anxiously, but I slide back down onto the floor. It's too hot to move anyways, I guess. Dove soon returns, carrying something in her hands, and I go on edge. Please don't have wrong meat again. My body tenses when she sets the bowl in front of me, then I immediately relax again. Oh, water. I give Dove a quick side eye. Her attention is already settling back into her book. After drinking a bellyful of water, I plop down on my side, feeling much more refreshed. I blink blurrily after a noise disturbs my brief midday nap. Did Dove just say something? I flinch until my gaze up after Dove slams the cover of her book shut. She lets out a large sigh and throws her arms straight over the desk with her head bowed between them. She then turns her head towards me. Have you ever seen a witch? My ears perk up. Why did she ask that? Dove is clearly not a witch herself, as far as I've been able to tell at least. I can't imagine what kind of witch would want to spend her time meticulously drawing the same thing over and over again. And Dove feels within my reach. No witch can make me feel that way. However, the possibility for her to have any relations to a witch is increasingly tangible. Only magic can explain the thing this mansion is, brimming with. I can find a comfort in a place like this, but avoiding a run-in with a witch has been a blessing considering the obvious traces of one. If only I could ask Dove for answers. The more I learn about this place, the more questions I have. It's so frustrating not being able to speak. I startled from the sound of the book dropping right in front of me. The book Dove had been leafing through now sits before me, open to a random section. I can't help but let my gaze flicker down to it. My eyes widen as I take in the contents of the page before me. Strange symbols and cursive writing fill every inch of the old parchment. I stand and draw closer to see better. Curious thing, aren't you? I look up and see Dove facing me in her chair, observing me with her head resting on her palm. I freeze under her stare, my eyes stare to the book again. You know that has 100% mortality rate with cats? I tip my nose up at her. Good thing I'm not a cat. Dove narrows her eyes, then the corner of her lips twitches. She unravels her curled limbs and stands from her seat, from where she drags her bare feet across the floor until she reaches the open book, kneeling down and flattening her palm over its pages. Well, I suppose there is more to the cat's story than people think. I can only catch a quick glimpse of the rough circle carved into the hard leather of the cover before Dove grabs it and flips it close. She then opens it again to the first few pages with undelicate hands. I read the words at the top of the page. Death returns. Dove traces her fingers over the words. Satisfaction brings it back. I feel my tail wagging at the base of my spine as I look back up to Dove. Would you like to learn about magic? It's not just something anyone can do. My yellow eyes meet her blue ones. Magic. Nothing has ever haunted me more. And now, like a candle has been lit at the bottom of the abyss, I can finally search for what I've always yearned. I'm saving just in case because I don't want to try and get the other endings and mathematical endings. I'm going to save here for now. Let's say yes. The moment I give my answer, something about Dove changes. Like hot embers fanned in the wind, her pale eyes glow in the dim light. I feel my heart thumping in my chest. Her mouth stretches wide. I can see the points of her canines and her gums are black. Dove really smiles, even more so with teeth. I hold back a shudder. This time I know for sure that my heart does not race in fear. Dove looks directly into my human eyes. A malevolent grin creeps across her face. In that moment I knew she could see her fiery eyes reflected in mine. My eyes walk across the first page, my chest booming with excitement. A book about magic. I've never been able to read one before. They were all removed before I could get the chance. Everything you could ever want to know about magic is written in this book. It's a witch Bible, after all. My mouth dries. For a moment, I imagined myself elsewhere. I'm back with my grandmother, sitting on the carpet by the fireplace and having my burning questions dismissed once again. Your birds brought you freedom, Basil. One day you will understand that. I can only smother my disappointment with a short reply. No matter how many times I asked for an explanation, she would always deflect or ignore my prodding. So I stopped asking and started searching for my own answers. I see nothing special about myself, but I could be. I slowly look up at Dove. She stares quickly into my eyes before looking back down in the open book. Then she starts reading. There is much to know before one uses magic, and it all begins with death. I take a deep breath and my ears stand up attentively. From the moment of birth, sentient bodies accumulate toxins, energy, and resources. Upon death, these bodies begin to rot and break down, returning these compounds to the environment. It's hard to believe, but in the state of decomposition, new life is abundant in the absence of an old one. I immediately deflate. What? My silence must have been deafening, because Dove knocks her head back up on my reaction. In spite of my ability to truly be expressive with my canine features, I must have created quite the emotional response because Dove turns completely flustered. Ah. Deep scarlet burns her cheek and keeps crawling up her forehead. She awkwardly looks down and starts fidgeting with her fingers. Her brows quickly pinch together. I start to think that she might actually be embarrassed. My jaw drops slightly in disbelief. I watch her swallow a lump in her throat. I realized that was probably difficult to understand. I forget to breathe when Dove looks at me once again, with fingers tightly intertwined around eyes. You're really listening. Dove looks at me in complete astonishment, and I'm in complete loss on how to react. Dove runs her hands through her messy hair and recollects herself. She returns to the book in front of her, starting to from the beginning again. There is a certain type of energy that is created in the process of decay. That energy is magic itself, existing in the plane between life and death. This plane is also known as the other. Esser. No living being can ever see it. It's an inevitable occurrence. Death is guaranteed in the circle of life. It's cruel but necessary. Because when death blooms, new life persists. Dove tilts her head and flips through the pages of the book. Of course, I'm only summarizing the complexities. It's not as simple as practice. It's not as simple in practice, because magic is not something that can be continued by any laws we've observed in nature. At least, the ones we know. In fact, magic is no different than a species you're probably familiar with. Mushrooms. I cock my head in confusion and look at Dove, expecting her to elaborate on her explanation. She leans over the witch Bible, balancing on one arm and holding up her pointer finger. Let me explain. Mushrooms are the only thing in nature that do not follow a logical system. Normally, creatures with bright colors always serve as a warning sign to stay away. Through evolution, both flora and fauna have developed characteristics that allow them to survive long enough to pass down the traits. But with mushrooms, none of that applies. Bright or dull, big or clustered, you can't tell if a mushroom will kill you based on looks alone. You can't tell if a mushroom will kill you based on looks alone. The only way to find out is to eat it. I gulp. Dove makes mushrooms sound like old gods. But, back to the topic at hand. Dove flips to a new page, and I pause at the sight of scratchy doodles that make the words on the page illegible. Why did she draw that? Oh, that's cute. Definitely Dove's handiwork. Magic can be unpredictable and unstable. By this logic, areas with little deaths hold little magic. Likewise, places with an abundance of deaths hold an abundance of magic. Places like cemeteries. I nod in understanding as Dove continues. It's the reason ghosts love to linger around there so much. Dove crosses her legs and rests her head in her palm. She hasn't been running the pages of the book, but she explains everything in perfect detail. There's so many times that she read this book. I'm told that the witches become empowered by corpses buried beneath their feet, and with that power comes tragic silence. Dove's expression becomes solemn. But in that silence, there's also an earnest level of respect from those who have passed away. She pauses for a moment and starts turning the pages again. When she finds the pages she wants, the corners of her lips perk up. All is satisfactory feast. My ear twitches. However, there are two exceptions to this. In spaces void of death, magic is completely unusable. Most witches usually avoid them like the plague. When the shimmer of magic runs through your veins as naturally as breathing, being there feels like gravity has amplified tenfold. It may be the closest thing to feeling human for a witch. On the contrary, a space plagued with too much death becomes dangerous for everything in it. Without caution, the magic can overflow and seep through the cracks between planes, corrupting everything it touches. And this is where the witches come in. Dove turns to a new page. The spread before me makes the fur along my spine stand up. That's a sick-ass drawing. I am greeted with an illusion of demons holding what appear to be babies. Are they human, or perhaps they're... Something in my brain clicks. I know this part. The conception of witchdom receiving the devil's blessing at birth to become full-fledged witches. My grandmother knows how to attain this blessing, but refused to tell me no matter how much I asked. It's a miracle I even know this much from what Love told me. Dove pauses to stare at the illustration. I nod my nose in her direction as encouragement to continue. Every witch begins with the devil's blessing. Once they receive the blessing, they are bound to hell. Dove gets lost in thought for a moment and combs her fingers through her hair. Did you know that witches have 3 commandments? I blink. Of course it's 3. 1. Know God before the devils. 2. Thou shalt honor the devil's gift. And 3. Oh my god, I choked on air. And 3. Magic shall never be used without the devil's permission. Dove frowns as she states the last commandment. You didn't mention how witches received the blessing. I whined in disappointment. Dove seemed to completely misunderstand my reaction. Are you scared? Don't worry, demons won't be making deals with a little puppy like you. I snorted in annoyance. The relationship between us and witches is symbiotic. Because witches can access the Ether, they can utilize magic. The more magic they use, the more power is imbued in hell. The demons who reside in hell can extract that power and use it to create the chaos and love so much. I let out an involuntary shiver. I can't help the anxiety that arises from the knowledge of using magic to prevent enrichment for beings that love nothing more than trouble. However, witches don't just exist for demons who live vicariously through them. They have the responsibility of keeping magic levels in balance. That's what more to talk about, though. The most important thing in this book are these. Dove shows me a page filled with magic circles. Using magic is a little different from fairy tales. You can't just conjure something from nothing with a twitch of your hand. Not without a couple of steps at least. Magic it's far more similar to... Dove taps her index finger on her chin. Oh! It's like baking! I feel my brows pinch in confusion. Magic is like making cakes? Well, you see, baking requires perfect measurements. Dove flips through the Witch Bible until she lands on her side page. Jin lifts up the book and presents it to me. 3 symbols greet my eyes. Each one of the symbols represents elements. These are your ingredients. He turns to a new page filled with various illustrations of circles. In order to use magic, you need to gather the right elements and place them within a circle that looks just like this one. Every space within the circle is like a number. This is why magic is like baking. The ingredients and measurements must be exact. A single miscalculation could be the difference between enhancing a rose and killing it. One more thing. For every spell in this book, there is a secret ingredient. Dove slides the page between her middle and ring finger until the paper meets the webbed skin of her hand. Without even flinching, she pulls her hand across the paper. I immediately cringe away like it could feel the stinging sensation of paper slicing into her sensitive skin in first hand. Dove holds her hand up and pinches the flesh around the paper cut, pushing out beads of scarlet. She sets the witch Bible flat on the floor again and hovers her hand over the drawings of circles. More blood runs down from the cut and forms a crimson droplet that hangs from the tip of her finger. It feels like minutes go by before the droplet finally falls from her hand, staining the page below. The sound of blood dripping onto the page echoes in my ears like ticking clock. I focus on the way the blood splatters on impact right in the middle of a circle. Then it runs down the curve of the puppet until it fully soaks into the parchment. The curve of the paper until it fully soaks into the parchment. If you make your spell correctly, all you need is a little witch blood to make it transform before your very eyes. Into art! Dove puts her hands into fist. Wishes I might not have a demon's blessing. But we are surely not human. We come from fire and brimstone, after all. Magic belongs in our veins. Just because we are not connected to the other, doesn't mean it isn't there, just waiting for a call. Dove leans over the blooded bronze with hunger in her eyes. Her hair falls like a curtain of brambles from around the witch Bible. The sight makes me think of putrid veins that spread from an infection. One day, we won't need anyone's blessing to take what is ours. I tense up. He notices my stiffness and he gives me a small smile. Are you intimidated by magic now? Don't worry, there's no need to go through something as advanced as creating your own spells. That's what the witch Bible is for. It contains all the spells you could ever need. Dove trails off. It looks like she has more to say, but she hesitates to express her thoughts. I rest my head on my paws as the silence stretches. Self expression starts before speaking again. One more, though. My head lifts. These spells aren't enough for me. She narrows her eyes at the witch Bible and smooths the parchment with her hand before crumpling into her fist. I blink in surprise. Witches are brave enough to walk the earth as hosts for parasitic demons in hell, and yet... Dove looks down at her open palms, her face lingering on her wound, blood now clotted. She starts raising her voice and inflating response. And yet they bind themselves to so many rules. They can use magic. They're the only ones that can use magic. All the possibilities in the palm of their hands. But what's this? Dove throws the book open, showing the words carved from the inside of the back cover. Do not use magic on people. Do not waste magic with minuscule pursuits. Always keep magic levels balanced. Never take too much. Her face contours in frustration with every line she reads. They smother themselves. They make themselves so small. They do not pursue progress. There is only tradition this and tradition that. It drives me mad. Luke suddenly grabs the witch's Bible and violently throws it. I jump out of the way as it bashes into a wall. A flurry of papers erupts when it slams onto the desk beneath it. Dove stands, puffing out short breaths and clenching her fists, pages flutter around her like snowfall. The sight haunts me. It's like seeing a glimpse of the Dove, free from the walls that contain her. Everything you want to know about magic is written in the Bible. But I want more. As I watch the papers flutter to the ground, I notice something written on all of them. Alchemical composition sketched with impatient scrawl litter every page I see. The symbols and circles look nothing like what I had seen in the witch Bible. Dove mutters something to herself. I'm not afraid like they are. Temperature around me drops. I almost expect my breath to cloud my face when I exhale. Just what is Dove trying to create? Dove drifts back to the desk, but she doesn't sit back down. She just stands there instead, completely lost in thought. I look around the room, feeling awkward in the silence. Eager or not to sit in for a second longer, I stand and get ready to wander off. I turn back and give Dove's one last glance before trotting away. I wander around the library, observing the piles of dusty books on the floor and the worn spines that crowd the shelves. One book in particular captured my attention. I take nimble steps closer to inspect a strange object hugging a book on the bottom shelf. It resembles a spider with long and bony appendages that stretch around the cover. Something about it feels me with unease. I start to back away when out of nowhere, I'm thrown onto the floor and the air is knocked out of my lungs. I let out a yelp, quickly realizing it was a mistake. Something writes tightly around me, constricting my movement and making it difficult to breathe. The more I struggle, the tighter the grip becomes. My eyes begin to sting as I catch a glance at the strange book I saw earlier. The cover is now bare. The spider-like object that had wrapped around the spine is now crushing me with its limbs. Footsteps rapidly reach my ears, and I see Dove appear around the corner of the bookshelf. I could see the look of surprise etched onto her face. A strange reaction to see me get crushed to death. I saw you got rid of that. She finally shows panic when I let out a pine bark. Dove rushes over and drops to her knees. I can feel her bony hands trying to dig on her spider's legs, and it digs into my flesh in the process. She pulls her hands back and bites her lip. I then feel her grabbing me again and hauling me into the air. Just, hold on, I can fix this. Her confidence is betrayed by her wavering voice. Is this it for me? It's a miracle I even made it this far, at least. My breathing quickens. No, I don't want to die like this. I stretch my body in Dove's arms, fighting back against the constricting creature. I can feel my vision turning fuzzy as Dove bursts into a room I've never seen before. She slips on something that sounds like paper, sending us both tumbling onto the floor. I let out a weak cry while Dove lands hard on her hands and knees. The spider continues to tighten its grip. Dove wastes no time running over to his shelf to rifle for bottles and drawers for something. When she finally finds what she's looking for, she quickly reads the tag attached to it and hurries back to me. I see her uncork a bottle with swirling purple liquid before pouring its content onto me. I feel a searing heat drip onto my skin as the spider screeches. I howl in agony when some of the liquid drips onto me and Dove releases a gasp. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get it on you. I whimper to cope with the pain. The only relief I can feel is a wall of suffocating pressure around me. Dove moves away to retrieve a cloth and clumsily taps at the stray purple fluids that had gotten onto my fur, making them sting even more. When she leaves my sight again, I look at my side and see the spider-looking object curled into itself and moving. Dove stops for a moment, stumbling in the process, and gives it her attention as well. I'm not sure how I expected her to feel over the aggressive little creature that almost killed me, but the face she makes catches me off guard. She looks like she's in mourning. Dove nudges the spider with her foot. I hold my breath in fear that it will spring back to life and make a second attempt to take my life. What a shame. My head breaks up. That was my first successful spell. My blood runs cold. What does she mean? You've seen quite a few of my spells by now. Dove looks down at her hands and starts counting fingers. The rose bush, the viper cage, the book spine. The sound of something tapping against glass makes me snap my head around. Up on a shelf, I spot what seems to be the source of the noise. Beans and float moss scratched around in the jar. Dove also looks up at them. Those are mine as well. Cute, aren't they? I gave them the raw meat you didn't want to eat, so they're probably hungry again. He gives me a small smile and nausea ripples through me. These things are a success to her? She created these horrific creatures? That shouldn't even be possible. Dove can't use magic. Can she? No, I doubt it. I feel my mind racing. If she was not the one who created them, then who did? I hear Dove fuss around the roof once again, and I take in my surroundings. It appears to be some kind of a study or lab. Shelves and cabinets line the walls filled with jars and bottles. The air is thick with a strong smell of herbs. Fresh and stale all at once, it's almost overwhelming. When I look back at the very back of the dark room, I let out a yell. Light pours in from a small window and disturbingly outlines an arrangement of scrolls around a dark frame. It looks like a mirror, but the surface of the glass is dull and doesn't reflect anything very well. The eye sockets of the animals' skulls are shrouded in shadow, but they give me the creeping sensation of being observed. Yeah, they definitely give off that impression. A familiar feeling I brush off with a full body shake. It's a witch's shrine. Dove frightens me out of my thoughts. She kneels beside me, looking conflicted. In her hands is a small jar, with a twist of her wrist she unscrews away, revealing a pale green paste inside. This will help your burns. I cower away from her touch as she tries to reach for me. I crash into something hard as I hide underneath the nearest table. Dove retracts her hand and presses it into her lap. I stare at her with wide eyes and crouch close to the ground, sheltered by the shadows. She opens her mouth to say something, but her words get stuck in her throat when her eyes catch on something behind me. She screams briefly, before widening her eyes with recognition. She shoots forward. I yelp and scatter away to avoid her. While my body is pressed against the wall, I look to see if Dove has followed me. I get her in my sight, but her focus isn't on me at all. In fact, the mysterious thing under the table has her completely distracted. It scrapes against the floor as she drags it out. A box. It's beautiful. Rose and storm motifs decorate the smooth, dark wood. Dove regards it open-mouthed, then snaps the chest open so abruptly that it tips back slightly. She slowly pulls something out of the box. I take a small step closer to see it more clearly. In her hand is a small, bloody pouch. I read a single word on the label attached to it. Babel. Ew. Oh, that's not good. I feel a chill crawl up my spine. What is that? I swallow heavily as I begin to imagine the worst. It couldn't be. I pad up to the box and shrink back when I see the contents that lay in its red velvet lining. Bile rises in my throat at the sight of human remains. My eyes dart between the objects in the box. A clutch of dark hair tied together with a ribbon, a small bone, and another bloody pouch. Always paper tags attached to them. I don't need to read the rest of the labels to know what's written on them. Names. The names of all the ghosts that haunt this home. Except for one. Dove still holds Babel's pouch in her hands. The blank expression paints her face, but with closer inspection I can see a faint tremble in her hands. She quickly tosses the pouch back into the chest and slams it to a close. She sets it back under the table, then stands up and makes her way out of the study. I stand there frozen, briefly forgetting how to move my feet. Eventually I trail out behind her. Reluctantly so, because I don't know what else there to do. When I step out into the hall, Dope was nowhere to be seen. I look around, searching for a sign of where she might have gone. Everywhere I look offers no hint. I whine, and I start navigating sorts of confusing hallways as best as I can from memory. Eventually, I find Dove's bedroom. Dove is not here. I find myself feeling relieved and troubled. I walk over to the spot I slept the night before, drop down, and listen to the noises of the house until I fall asleep. It's dark when I wake up again. I look around. I don't see nor hear a sign of Dove. A knot in my stomach forces me to get up. Being unaware of Dove's whereabouts fills me with anxiety. Being near her makes me feel like her horrors are with me instead of against me. I return to the labyrinth of hallways and walk around, keeping all my senses alert. I start to reconsider my decision to walk around the mansion at night again, especially alone. Evening seems to be the time when she likes to walk around, as if I had spoken her into existence. A wet drag comes through from behind me. I freeze in my tracks. There's a familiar tapping sound nearby. I see the hidden door leading to the roof next to me. I don't bother looking behind me and head straight for the door. Basil, honey? Basil, honey? I don't think that's a good idea. Unlike the last time I was here, a clear night sky spans high above me. Stars out the dark, and for a moment I forget about all the things I was scared of. Every time I see the night sky, I feel so small under its grandeur. When those spoke about magic earlier, I was frightened by how much it revolved around death. Before learning about it, I had always saw magic but like this. Like it was an art that could capture the spark of small joys. I'm shaking. I rebelliously steal more time to admire the stars. I'm breathing deeply, slowly. For even just a second, I want to remember how to sit still and get lost in everything I'm feeling. I want to gulp down the humid summer air, feel the gentle night breeze brush against my fur, smell the sap from the trees, listen to crickets ringing in my ears, and memorize the placement of every star I can see. Every blissful and uncomfortable sensation, I let it all sink into me. They all remind me that I'm still alive, that I hold onto that so tightly, because I'm so afraid of what I'll become if I can no longer see goodness when it's in front of me. The longer I stare at the sky, however, I squint. The stars seem so close. Something pulls me back to reality. I hear a voice. I turn my head and see a faint light. It's coming from the greenhouse. Oh, little saints, don't you sing babble? The subway seems to be consuming everything like a vengeful spirit. I'll never see what's so interesting about something so boring like weeds. Flowers are pretty, but their beauty is so fleeting. I try to make these ones last longer, but they still end up dying when they're cut from their buds. I enter the greenhouse quietly. Dove stands by the dry rose bushes with a lantern at her feet. Meanwhile, Babel busies itself nearby with a watering can. Is this where she's been all day? Dove hasn't noticed me yet. She takes a peek at Babel and makes a downcast face before looking back at her roses. Babel, do you remember when you let me plant seeds to grow tomatoes? Dove prods at her rose bulb and pulls her hand back before I can sink its teeth into her flesh. No matter what I did, or how much you helped me, I couldn't even get it to bud. But oh my god, my nose is so itchy. 1 second. Okay. Babel gives no response. He quietly sets his watering can down and starts meticulously weeding the flower beds. You still put in so much effort to take care of these silly plants. I don't understand why. I spent so many hours in here just watching you, yet I can't even name anything. If I told you to let everything die, would you finally rest? Do you even know how to do anything else anymore? Dove moved to face Babel. You should have just left the stupid mushrooms alone. Then you wouldn't be stuck in this cursed state. Babel straightens up and holds out a bundle of flowers in front of Bill. Now that I have the chance to look, I notice that there's actually a variety of flowers in the greenhouse. Roses, daffodils, lilacs. Something that looks like lilacs but with a different shape petals. It definitely isn't a lilac, but Spoon stoops for in an interesting way. Perhaps I could find out what it is later. My grandmother didn't like teaching me about magic, but she was always willing to entertain my botanical curiosity. The one bubble offers doves or bleeding hearts, scientifically known as Dicentra spectabilis. I've always been fascinated by them because of their unique shape, darting stems and their hanging blooms that are shaped just like hearts. My grandmother explained one of the things they symbolize, unconditional love. Their meaning filled me with warmth when I heard it for the first time. I immediately wanted to learn more about it, so I did my own research on it and read through one of her books on the language of flowers. I learned bleeding hearts also represented something else. Heartbreak. Joe stands so still that I see it somehow turned into a statue. On the surface, Joe is calm and collected, but behind her gentle visage lives a merciless beast harboring in the trenches of her emotions. Oh. Joe shoots her hands out to smack the flowers out of Babel's tentacle grip, letting them fall at her feet. Babel bends down and delicately picks up each stem again. Dove's cheeks grow splotchy with red as she holds her breast in tight fists. Can't you just be here with me? I hear her voice crack. Dove pictures her eyes closed. Or have you already gone for a long time? I can't watch this any longer. But they're never meant to stay longer than they're supposed to. Despite some of their efforts in doing so, and despite the efforts of those that are not ready for them to depart, people never realize until they've lost someone forever. But the dead will immortalize themselves in your thoughts, whether you want them to or not. The emptiness they leave behind turns you into mold you can never ignore. Body, soul, those can be gone, but memories, those cannot be killed. I twist around and take off, knowing that it needs to be done. Oops. I hear Dove make a small noise behind me. My retreat must have tipped her off from her presence. No! Don't! Her distress screams almost make me stop dead in my tracks, but I carry onward. I race into the study and skid to a halt in front of the books on their table. I hear the sound of footsteps running after me. Using my paws, I close and shove at the desk until it falls over and the lid opens up. Pops open, spilling the contents out. I have a feeling we might have a big choice here. I quickly scan through the pieces of paper attached to the remains. When I spot Babel's pouch, I grab it with my own mouse and turn to sprint for the door. Dove stands there out of breath, clutching onto the door frame. She glares at me and walks forward. Bad dog. Drop it. I close my jaw tighter and stand my ground. You have to let them be free. I try to plead to her with my eyes. Dove takes a step forward and I take a step back. She holds her hand out towards me. Give it back. I need it. I feel really bad about that because I know I just went back on my word earlier, but I said I wouldn't hurt her unless I had to, but I have a feeling this is like what we need to do. Dove lets out a blood-cooling scream when I tear my teeth into her arm. Red blossoms through her sleeve of her white gown, and blood drips down her arm onto the floor. She pulls back, clutching the wound. My ears droop at the sight of the dark drips that cascade down her colorless cheeks. Dove's face darkens and her jaw tightens. She furiously wipes the tears from her face and turns away from me. I stare at Dove's hand, but something behind her catches my eye immediately. Dove twists her head around. We both see Babel lumbering through the hall, holding an arrangement of flowers. I can see her bleeding arm and shove the back of her mind as it falls into her side. She starts chasing after the ghost, and I'm hot on her heels behind her. The two of us step out into the hallway and trail after Babel. Babel takes his time moving around the manor, stops at every empty vase on the table and places a fresh flower in each one, slipping into rooms and adding pops of color to spaces devoid of it. Dove and I observed it without saying a word. With every flowery addition, Babel brings brightness to even the darkest corners. When it finishes its rounds, it returns to the rooftop. Babel kneels before a cluster of violets and toggles a leaf side to side until it's pulled free from the soil. It then stands up and moves to a bench, wrapping one of its tendrils around the small knife in the process. It takes a small cut of the stem, then gently places it into a jar of water. I look up at Dove, who watches with lowered brows and mirrored eyes. I lift a paw and brush it against her skirt. She looks down at me from the corner of her eyes. I take a deep breath. I brush her hair and tip my nose up with Babel's belongings still in my mouth. Dove lowers her hand, and I drop the pouch into it. I then look back up at her. Your friend worked so hard to bring you peace. Don't you want to show it your appreciation? Dove's breast hitches and her lips tremble. She stands up straight, dragging her feet towards the lantern that she had placed near the rose bush. I follow Dove from behind. She slowly kneels before the fluttering flame encased in the glass. She calmly opens the lantern door and silently watches the flame with Babel's pouch on her lap. I can sense her mind racing behind her eyes, desperately trying to dig her nails into an excuse that will delay her next move. Her throat bobs, then she turns her head to look back at Babel. It hovers around jars of other propagating plants, none of the wiser of what she's about to do. Bill faces the lantern again and squeezes her eyes closed. When she opens them again, her face is collected. She carefully brings the pouch to the fire and holds the edge in it until it catches. The brightness of the flame reflects in her pale eyes. She places the burning pouch on the tiled floor, and we both watch the soap bag organically burn away, revealing the teas inside it. They burn slowly, so slowly that I wonder if they'll even be able to burn. Dove does not turn away to look back at Babel even once. Then finally, all that's left are ashes and tiny shards. My eyes widen as Dove scoops up the remains in her hands. She shows no signs of pain as the cinders stinge her palms. She transfers it all onto one hand and takes a deep and shaky breath before crumbling the remains. Out of nowhere, I hear the faint sound of wind chimes. I look around, wondering where the sound had come from, and find nothing. Perhaps I had just imagined it. Dove pours the ashes onto the floor. I look behind her. Babel is gone. The next few days after Babel's disappearance pass by uneventfully. By the third day, everything changes. I lay near Dove's feet in the library. I still have yet to find something that will help me leave this place. Maybe the only way to escape is to become a ghost myself, but I have a feeling my freedom wouldn't be guaranteed that way either. Dove sits at her desk staring at notes in the days. Her pencil has been completely still for a while now. My heart stops. Dove's head snaps up. That sounded exactly like the front door from the day I came here. There's a door. There's a way out. And my arm is fully healed. I bolt up and shudder with anticipation. My tail wags decidedly. I grab Dove's skirt with my teeth, wanting to waste no time getting to the door. Oh, honey, no. She crouches down and grabs my snout in her hand. You have to hide. I pull back and look at her confused. Why would I hide? This might be my only chance to go home. But when I see the panic in Dove's eyes, I start to wonder why the door has returned. My gaze slowly shifts to the entrance of the library. The floorboards inside the library creak. Heavy footsteps echo, getting louder and louder. I stare at the door, paralyzed. What are you doing? Move! Dove shows me with her hands and I spring into action. Where should I hide? The footsteps start right outside the door. Because, this is the desk. We'd be very visible. I'm hoping the bookshelf doesn't kill us. We'll go to the earlier safe if it does. I hurry behind the bookshelf and lower myself to the floor as fast as I can. The door creaks open and someone walks in. I try to control my rapid breathing out of fear that it will betray my concealed position. I peek through the gaps. What I see haunts me. It's the Hat Man! A tall gentleman enters the library, still in his underwear, with a cane tucked under his arm. I watch as he approaches Dove. I see her casually step in front of the notes she has scattered on the desk. The man takes off his top hat and holds it against his hip. I feel my heart jumps out of my chest when I see his eyes. Dove resembles him a lot. They both have pale skin and inky black hair that spikes out like a lion's mane. No, I'm not gonna say anything. What sets them apart, though, are their eyes. Dove's eyes are the blue of glaciers, while his eyes, except that animals that are blindly colored because of their toxicity, are mostly active at night. That seems fitting for this man because his eyes are the scarlet of a poisonous frog. A warning, outlined by the dark marking that covers the halo of his eyes. I've seen markings like that before. Every witch has them. When he speaks, I almost yelp in surprise. Where is Hypatia? My name was Pearl. This voice was the one I had heard when I had first arrived here. But more importantly, Hypatia? Who's that? Is there still someone I have yet to meet in this house of curiosities? It unsettles me to think so. Unarmed, I'm sure. My brows draw together. No, hello? The man nods and turns to leave just as quickly as he came. But then he stops for a brief moment, reaches into his coat and produces a small lantern with a glowing green flame. Here is everything that was on your list. He places the lantern on Dove's desk with a light cap. His eyes briefly catch on Dove's nose and I see her go stiff. You've been busy. It's nothing. Of course it is. The man steps away and makes his way to the door again. You should know better by now. Gives Dove one last glance. Why don't you find something better to do instead of wasting your time? Dove's eyes tweak, but her overall expression remains blank. I stare in disbelief as he leaves without another word. Once he's gone, Dove stands rooted to her spot. Jesus Christ! Her face is blank and her eyes are unfocused. My ears twitch and follow the new noises in the house. Footsteps fade to another section of the mansion. I can hear the sound of the door clicking to a close. Dove finally moves again and picks up the handle of the lantern. He looks down at me right as I move and come out of my hiding spot. Let's go, quietly. I think I hid it in the right place. Hopefully. When we get to the kitchen, Dove places a small lantern on the table. But then she opens the glass and blows out the flame. Smoke begins to fill the room. It clouds the kitchen so quickly that I don't even have time to hold my breath. I expect a dry burn in my lungs, but instead the smell of petrichor tickles my nose. When the smoke clears, boxes, bags, and plates have appeared out of nowhere all over the table and floor. My eyes widen in awe, and my tail starts wagging excitedly. I start sniffing at boxes and peeking into bags, while Dove starts digging through the crates. I sit and watch as she pulls out shiny new incandescent bulbs and sets them down on the kitchen table. She opens up everything before she starts sorting them. Out of one box, she pulls out a new dress and polished shoes. They're both pretty and frilly, but Dove gives them a sour look and shoves them back into their boxes before moving on to the next thing. I remember the witch had mentioned getting everything on the list, which I assume was prepared by Dove. Is the new fashion not in her style, or were they things she didn't ask for? I haven't seen Dove wear anything beside her sleepwear. She probably doesn't see the point in getting dressed, considering all her activities are forcefully indoor-based. In another box, she lights up at the sight of new books. She fans the pages and takes in a deep inhale. Her face lights up with glee as she basks in the new book smell. She gathers all the food and sorts them into separate piles. Jesus fucking Christ. One pile is for the cold cellar, the other for the pantry. She pulls something out of a paper bag and her mouth stretches into a big smile. She looks down at me as I tilt my head in question. I'll treat you to something tasty today. Dove flashes a quick glance at the hallway, then crouches down. Follow me, and be light on your paws. Dove starts down the hallway, balancing on the balls of her feet with practiced ease. I feel uneasy about this new need to sneak around the house. I've been here long enough to the point where I'm almost used to the monsters that live here. But now I'm learning that these monsters have something to be worried of. We enter the greenhouse, and Dove stops at the entrance. I look back at her in confusion. Her eyes stare blankly. I can see her pupils move around the room in search of something. As soon as I finish this chapter, we are ending the stream because I can clearly not fucking speak right now. My brain is melting out of my ears. Her behavior sets me on edge. I turn around to see if there's someone or something here in the greenhouse besides us. There's no one. Nothing. I glance back at Dove. A line forms between her brows before she continues making her way in. She passes by me and silently heads for the violets. Once they're right in front of her, she bends down, reaching for them. I blink in surprise when she starts ripping them all out. This is probably the last time I'll get to eat this. We should appreciate Babel's hard work, right? My ears go flat. I stare at the uprooted flowers that have obviously been raised with so much care. Everything here is most likely going to run away. Dove doesn't seem very interested in plants. I can't really picture her spending every day here pulling out weeds, knowing how much water every plant needs, or even knowing what fertilizer is. I think she would much rather draw the same statue 1,000 times. It feels like such a shame. Once Dove has picked out all the violets, leaving the soil bare, she stands and gets ready to head back. I try to memorize the site of the vibrant gardens as much as I can, before I'm forced to catch up to Dove. Dove pauses awkwardly again when we enter the hallway. I freeze up. This time, I really think there's something dangerous up ahead. I casually peer around Dove's legs. Once again, there is nothing. I snap my head up at Dove. Is she messing with me? Dove continues moving like nothing happened and I slowly trail behind her. We continue walking. We pass by a small window. I notice a familiar glass holding a small bundle of roses, espresso already dried up and flaking. My mouth goes dry. We arrive back at the kitchen. Dove starts gathering ingredients and ripping the violet petals from the stems. Meanwhile, a pot of water is heating over a fire and the hearth starts to bubble. When steam starts to rise from the pot, Dove places the petals in a stoneware pot and adds the boiling water. She places the cover over the pot to let the petals steep, then starts to organize and put away all the ingredient supplies. I watch curiously from the floor. I've never eaten flowers before. Dove completes every step with practiced precision. By the time she's finished cleaning up, the violets are ready to be infused with any other ingredients. Dove keeps herself occupied by combining everything. Eventually, she pours the finished product into glass jars. Dove seals 4 jars of violet jelly to be stored away, leaving 1 jar that's only partially filled. I lick my lips and admire the pretty color the violets have made. She grabs a spoon and pops it in the jar, taking it with her as she makes her way to a small package wrapped in twine and paper sitting near the window. We're done here now. Dove sets the jar of violet jelly down on the window seat and unravels the package she had brought. A new quilt unfolds in her hands. She spreads it out on the floor near my water bowl. She settles into the window seat and I wait a moment before I step onto the blanket. I take a second to savor the softness under my paws before laying down comfortably. Dove scoops up some of the violet jelly and holds the spoon in front of my face. Here, I'll give you this first bite. Give the jelly a whiff. Then test it with a small lick. It has such a sweet and florid taste. I lick up the rest greedily. Dove takes the spoon back and stares at the jar of purple jelly. As the sky fades to an all-consuming darkness, I gaze at the sheet of stars one last time before I curl into a ball. I can hear the soft crackles coming from the candle that Dove lit earlier. The sound soothes me, and soon enough my eyelids start to feel heavy. I rest my head on my paws and curl my tail around me. I hear Dove's spoon scrape into the glass jar. Then the sound of someone sniffling. The morning air is cool against my face. My eyes close in appreciation, knowing it won't stick around as the day grows heavy with the midsummer heat. I shift awkwardly in the window seat as I watch the sky grow brighter. The wolf sleeps so soundly on the small blanket I had placed down for him. He would probably puff up if he knew he was sleeping with his belly exposed to me so comfortably. I feel my lips stretch into a small smile, then a frown It was so quiet that I couldn't sleep. When it's quiet, I can hear every little sound in the house, and that makes it easy for me to notice that something is missing. There's one less ghostly go bump in the night. My eyes are waiting for sounds that aren't there. My ears are waiting for sounds that aren't there. My eyes are waiting for shapes that aren't there. Why is it that the ghost of a ghost has so much more presence? Something breaks me from my thoughts. I hear a slight cooing sound right next to me. I look down and see a small brown bird sitting on the sill in my open window. My mouth parts. Good morning, though. It softly calls to me and hops on weightless feet. I lean forward and slowly reach my fingers out towards it, wondering if its feathers are as soft as it looks. It flies away before I can touch it. I let out a soft gasp and the corners of my mouth fall once again. I pull my hand back and lean my head against the wall. I let out a sigh as I watch the dove disappear into the sky. The sun has started to rise over the trees and its light hits the painted colors of my window. Like everything about this place, I have it memorized. The same clouds, the same shades of blue and pink, the same rays of light that pierce through the leaves, the same shadows. The foolish part of me keeps thinking the day will come where I finally get to see a sky I've never seen before. Wood creaks. Only one person makes that sound. This day has begun. I search for a glimpse of the morning dove again. Instead of wings that fly around clearly, all I see is the sky as it begins to be red. The brightness of the sun is smothered as the moon devours it and takes its place like a celestial doppelganger. Out of the corner of my eye, the rainbow lights that dappled my room vanished. I close my eyes and rummage through the depths of my thoughts to somewhere to hide. Somewhere to hide. Jesus fuck Christ. Will today be a good day? Or a bad day? I hear the wolf snore and look down at him. I said I would help distract you, but it's been you who has been distracting me. Okay. And we're ending it here. Because apart from me starting to be unable to speak properly, I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish the entire game in one sitting like I thought. So yeah, we'll resume I think maybe next week. I need to check the schedule and stuff like that. I think next week we can resume this and maybe finish and see what ending we get. Hopefully we get the true ending. Hopefully we get a good ending, at least not a bad end. If we don't get the true ending, at least I hope we can get the good ending. I think we might be going down the correct route with the ghost, stuff like that. And yeah, I don't want to give all of my thoughts right now because I think it'll be better once the game is fully done and I can fully speak on just everything as a whole. But so far I am really enjoying the story. And overall I think it's a pretty good story. Any thing I might have are just minor stuff that don't really matter. The character writing is really good. I enjoy Basil, I enjoy Dove. Mr. Hatman, his appearance was fun. And I'm happy to see the ghosts, at least the ones that are named, are friendly. And I have a few theories about them that I think I'll talk about once we finish the playthrough fully, in case it gets revealed later down the line, or if it doesn't get revealed, I will talk about my theories and stuff on who I think the ghosts were, who they represented and that sort of thing, but that said, thank you for coming. If you like the video, if you want to subscribe, do all those things. You've been on YouTube before, you know what to do, you know the drill. And yeah, thank you for coming, everybody, and I will see you again this Sunday for another stream of Hades. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.